welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and we're doing the weekly reading vlog thing again. First of all, it's just a little bit stormy out right now. I've been hearing some thunder and it's like lightly raining right now, so hopefully the sound is fine, but if you hear rumbling like that, that's kind of distant though. That's why. Secondly, I just want to thank every single one of you who reached out either in the comments of my last vlog video or through Instagram or Voxer or whatever to check up on me and see how I was doing post-surgery and how I was recovering. That really meant a lot to me, and it was really sweet and kind of so many of you to do that, so thank you. I am definitely very much on the mend at this point. Today is Sunday, the 18th, I think. Something like that. I am doing a lot better, able to move around a lot more than I was, and my stomach is adjusting okay so far. Depends on the meal. So let me tell you about what I'm reading this week. Most of it is stuff that I talked about in my last vlog. All of it is. I'm still like sort of maybe kind of working on Don Quixote. I haven't picked it up since before my surgery and don't really plan to pick it up too much unless I need an audiobook, because as of right now I'd rather be reading the other things that I'm reading right now. I'm still working my way through both Knowledge of the Holy and Borges. So Knowledge of the Holy, I am through chapter 19 on page 97, so only have 4 chapters of this left, so drawing to a close with this one and we'll finish it by the end of the week. I was also supposed to finish Borges I think by the end of this week, and I'm not sure that that's gonna happen. I'm a little more than halfway through. I'm on page 148. I have 4 short stories left and then essays and parables, so we'll just see. Sandy has already finished this. Dia is still working her way through, so I just read one of them today, and it's the first day that my brain has been able to handle some Borges, and I still was kind of like, what? Like, I gotta get my brain back into Borges mode. The other books that I mentioned in my last vlog were Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. This is book 3 in the Farseer trilogy, which I've loved so far. I'm probably about a third-ish of the way through. I'm on about page 100, and which is how many chapters? Only 14 chapters through. I'm on the beginning of chapter 15, because Robin Hobb writes super long chapters, but I'm enjoying this so far. I'm not liking it as much as some of the other ones, and I mentioned this at the end of my last vlog. It's just because I'm missing a lot of the characters. We're not really seeing anybody but Fitz at all. He's kind of all by himself, and I'm just like missing all the other characters that were surrounding him in the past books, because he's just kind of literally like a lone wolf right now. So I'm missing everyone else. But I've been encouraged to hang in there, that I will see them again, so yay. I am also barely into Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy. I've read the first 3 chapters, so I am 37 pages in, which puts me at about, I think, 8%. So I definitely, for a classic this week, want to focus much more on this one. I would love to finish all the books that I'm talking about right now this week. Borges might be a little bit too ambitious. I feel like I could probably finish the rest of them. I don't have a ton of things on my plate this week. I cleared a lot of things before my surgery and tried to do a lot of things beforehand so that way I could relax and let my body rest as needed. But my mom is coming into town tomorrow, which is really awesome, and I'm really looking forward to that, but that always knocks down my reading time a ton because I'd rather spend time with her. She lives states away, so I only get to see her probably like 3-ish, maybe 4 times a year, and so every time I get to see her is such a blessing. So I'm really excited that she's coming. It wasn't really her plan to come post-surgery, but it did work out that way just because she had already planned to come that week, and then my surgery got scheduled in the meantime. So I'm really excited to be able to spend some time with her. But that's pretty much my only plan. I did finish menu planning today, and I'm trying to eat more bland and less fatty foods to help with my recovery. So my friend Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space sent me a bunch of like low FODMAP recipes, so I'm excited to try out a few of those this week and hopefully share some of them with you. I'm hoping I will feel up to cooking this week, but we were really blessed to have a bunch of people like bring us food and stuff like that the past couple of days, and then my husband cooked today, so he may cook a couple of the meals because they look like they're relatively simple and everything, but I'm really hoping that I feel well enough to cook because I miss cooking. I actually really like to cook. So anyways, those are my plans for the week, and I will keep you updated as the week progresses, but welcome to the vlog. Hello, it is now Friday, so apparently you're only getting one update this week. It's kind of been a crazy week with my mom being here, and then I have had a really rough health week, so I honestly have not gotten a lot of reading done, so there's not a ton to update you on anyway, but also I didn't really have a chance to sit down and update you. So here's your update. I did finish one book. I finished The Knowledge of the Holy by Tozer, which I was scheduled to finish today, and I actually finished yesterday. I'm not really sure how I got a day ahead. I read a day ahead at one point before my surgery in hopes that if I got behind a day or two, I would still finish on time. And then I missed a day when I was recovering from my surgery, and I know I did. And yet somehow I still finished a day ahead. So I must have miscalculated somewhere, but that's okay. Highly recommend this book. This book is so amazing. So it's talking about, learning about who God is and how our ideas of God, or the way that we kind of create a God that we're comfortable with or a God that we understand, is not the same as actually worshiping and serving the one true God, and that we can kind of, if there are things about God we don't understand or we don't like, we tend to gloss over them or act like that's not true of him, and by doing so we're actually kind of creating a false God. And so he begins with that whole premise, and then he continues on to talk about the different attributes of God. And so we've talked about everything from this point, from things as deep as the Trinity to God's self-existence and self-sufficiency, his omniscience, his omnipotence, his mercy, his love, his justice, his holiness, his sovereignty, his faithfulness. And that's just a few of the chapters in here. So this has been an incredible book, and the chapters are relatively short, so it wasn't really a hardship to read a chapter a day at any point, and it was just wonderful to have this be the start of my day every single day. And it has been wonderful to have live shows to discuss. And so the day that this video is coming out is the day of our last live show, and we'll be discussing chapters, I think, 18 through 23. And I'm sad that it's over, and I'm sad that I missed one of the discussions, because I did miss last Saturday's discussion because I just was not quite feeling up to it, and I was kind of nervous that I was not feeling like that I wouldn't feel up to it. So I asked Krista to host and was hoping to be like in the comments, and then wasn't feeling well. So I'm so glad I asked Krista to host, but I will be hosting the final one, and I'm really looking forward to it. Then continuing with Labyrinths. Do you love all my like random post-it notes and just like envelopes that I'm taking notes on? I am now on page 193 out of 251. So I'm getting close towards the end. I read several of his essays today. I finished all the short stories, and I've read the first 3 essays, and I'm really enjoying the essays. Like I already mentioned, Dia and Sandy have already finished, but Dia was saying that she would go back, and she's like, I wish I could edit this book and go back and kind of like put together certain things because there are certain essays that go really well with certain short stories. And then she said the parables are the same way. And so she was like, I wish that I could go and like order them. So it's like, here's an essay with what his thought process was. Here's the short story and here's the parable, which is like, the parables are very, very concise. Like this is a longer parable, actually. Some of them are only just like a little tiny bit. So anyways, I think I have like maybe 4 or 5 essays left, something like that. And then the parables are super short. So I read 2 of them today. I read The Wall in the Books and The Fearful Sphere of Pascal. The Fearful Sphere of Pascal is my favorite one that I have read so far, and it ties in really, really closely with the Library of Babel, and that is probably my very favorite short story out of the short stories, although I have like 4 that are like kind of high up. I don't know, since I finished the short stories, I don't think I've told you so far what all my favorites are. So Pierre Menard, author of the Quixote, the Library of Babel, The Immortal, and The House of Asterion are like my 4 favorite short stories, but I enjoyed most of them. There was a few that I was just kind of like, just like didn't get, but most of them I got something out of, and it's been wonderful reading this. I'm so shocked at how much I have loved this. It started out with me feeling really overwhelmed and confused and intimidated, and it's ended with me just loving it. It's not ended. I'm still reading the essays and parables, but I still hope to finish this next week by the end of the month. And then I'm still working on these as well. So Assassin's Quest, I think I'm a little over halfway because I'm 400 pages in out of about 750 pages. So I'm a little more than halfway through this. I just read my favorite chapter of this book. I just read chapter 20, and if you've read this book, you may know what that chapter is. I'm trying to think what the title of the chapter is. Let me see, because that might give you a hint if you've read this. Jehampe, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. It's the capital city of the Mountain Kingdom. So anyways, we are reintroduced to someone who has been missing this entire book, and my heart was just like a little snatch of joy in the misery that is Fitz's life, because this book has been so miserable so far. Which is fine. It's not like I have been miserable reading it. That is not true, because Hobb is known for how gut-wrenching she can be at times. But Fitz's existence in this book has just been so lonely and so miserable for most of it. And he's had one person kind of come back into his life, and now we have a second. And I'm just like, I know that the joy won't last, but it just was really cool. And there was kind of some revelations about the relationship with this person that I wasn't really aware of, that I think is going to set the tone for future trilogies in this overall series. In fact, actually, I was talking to Penny and Stephanie, and they were both telling me that there are things that happen in Assassin's Quest that are setting up things for future trilogies, but even I think Penny's on the final trilogy or series of the Realm of the Underlings, because this is like the first installment, this first trilogy, and then you've got like Live Ships, and then you've got, I think, is it the Tawny Man that's next? Or I don't know. There's like different like trilogies or quartets that come afterwards that are kind of like an arc, but they all fit together. And Penny was saying that there are things in this book that set up for what she's reading right now, which is, I think, the final series or trilogy within this series. And like, I think I can see why, just from that chapter, that there are things that are being set in motion. You know, Fitz is not called the catalyst for nothing, but you kind of get like more of an idea of what that means. And I love Robin Hobb's writing. So that's where I am with this one. And then I am over 100 pages into Return of the Native. I was really hoping to finish this one this week, so that way I can move on to The Age of Innocence for my Patreon book club. And this is for my homeschool group book club, which is meeting on Thursday, and I need to finish this. And then I think my Patreon book club is probably meeting next Friday. That's kind of looking like the date. I put up a poll, and not everyone has voted yet, but so far that's the one that's winning. And so I'm just kind of like, we'll see, I guess. But I really didn't make as much progress in this as I had hoped. When I felt like reading, I was picking up this one more when I wasn't feeling well, because it's just, not only is it easier to read, but it was just more enjoyable at the time. But I will say, like, that this is not difficult for me to read, but it has been kind of difficult for me to really understand totally what it's about. Like, so far there's for sure like a love triangle going on, which is not at all unusual for Thomas Hardy's books. But I went and I read the description of this book, and it was talking about who the native is who's returning, and that person hasn't even been introduced yet, and I'm over 100 pages in. It said who it was by name, and I'm like, I don't think he's been in this story yet. So that's been very interesting. So far we have a young lady who was supposed to marry this young man, and basically something happens that delays their wedding, and they need to get married soon, or it's going to be shameful, and it's going to look kind of like it's a scandal that's reflecting particularly on her character even more than his. But we also find out really quickly that he has another lady that he is interested in, and that wasn't the sole reason that he kind of has delayed things, but it's definitely playing into it now. And then we have this man who used to live in this area who's in love with the girl who's basically kind of gotten jilted, and he's a Reddleman, which I'd never heard of before. I guess his wear is red dye, which never heard of that before, so that was really interesting. I've done some research while I've been reading this, and so he overhears conversations between the two of them, and by the two of them I mean the guy who was supposed to marry the girl, and then the other girl that he likes, the kind of girl that he's not actually with. And so he overhears a conversation between them, and basically he's trying to intervene because he cares about the girl who has been essentially jilted, and he proposed to her 2 years ago and she refused him, and then he left, and now he's back in the area. So there's that. But then apparently the girl who's been jilted, Thomason is her name, her cousin is supposed to be the native who returns, and we've not yet seen him. And I'm probably about a quarter of the way, maybe not quite a quarter of the way, similar to a quarter of the way into this book. So don't really know when he's gonna get here, assumedly pretty soon. So anyways, that's where I am with that one. So those are my updates for this week. I guess I don't have anything huge since I really only finished one book, but I did make some progress in the other ones, and hoping to get a lot more read in the next week. I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. What have you been reading lately? Have you finished any books so far for the month of June? Have you been enjoying what you've been reading? I hope you have. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me. I will see you again next time.